Brighton police are looking for a young woman who may have been kidnapped. 20-year-old Riley Hines was last seen with 21-year-old Orlando Romero around 6 o'clock Tuesday morning. They were near Platte Valley Medical Center. Both were in a 2008 gray or dark blue Dodge Charger with no license plate. Riley's 5'9", had on a black jacket, white shirt, blue pants, white sandals. We don't know if there's a connection between these two people, but Brighton police say that if you do see them, do not approach them and call 911 immediately.
Today, closing arguments expected in the trial of a man charged with murdering a Lakewood woman back in January 1984. 9 News reporter Darius Johnson joins us in studio this morning. And Darius, Ewing was convicted last summer of several other murders, and the jury is hearing about that case.
Ewing is serving 3 consecutive life sentences for murdering Bruce and Deborah Bennett, as well as their 7-year-old daughter Melissa, the same month that Patricia Smith was murdered. A former Aurora officer testified about the Bennett murder yesterday, and typically jurors don't usually hear about prior cases defendants may be connected to, but the judge in this case made an exception because the 2 cases are so similar. While the jury is hearing about some of the evidence in the Bennett murder case, they don't know about Ewing's conviction from last summer. Right now, Ewing is facing murder charges in the first degree for the January 1984 killing of Patricia Smith. Smith was sexually assaulted and beaten with a hammer in her Lakewood condo. A forensic analyst with the Colorado Bureau of Investigations also testified yesterday, saying Ewing's semen was collected from multiple places at the scene, including on Smith's body. The defense tried to argue his DNA was not found on the hammer used to kill Smith. However, the prosecution then argued a person wearing gloves wouldn't leave DNA and that Smith's DNA wasn't even found on some of her belongings. Ewing was given the opportunity to take the stand yesterday. He declined. He instead claimed that the system was rigged and that he had been treated unfairly. He also continued to state that authorities ignored his multiple efforts as he tried to lead them to the people responsible for these crimes. Corey, once again, closing arguments are expected to begin later on this afternoon.
Yeah, this is really interesting that jurors get to hear about the Bennett family, but the 2 cases are similar. It was the same month, the same year, not very far from each other, and it was both involving hammers, right?
Yep, these 2 cases 6 days apart. Women in both of these cases, or at least the 7-year-old girl and then Patricia Smith, both of them sexually assaulted and killed as well. So many different similarities, and then you easily speak to the hammer. So this is a very complex case with a lot of moving parts.
Boy, is it ever. All right, Darius, thank you. Also today, jury selection continues in the trial of Robert Feldman. He faces a single count of first-degree murder, accused of killing his wife Stacy back in 2015. Court documents say Robert Feldman called 911 and reported his wife's death. Feldman told police he found his wife unresponsive in the shower. An autopsy could not pinpoint a cause of death. In late 2017, an outside doctor who reviewed Stacy Feldman's autopsy report and other evidence found that she was strangled or suffocated. Feldman was arrested in March of 2018. He has been out on bond and on house arrest since. After jury selection is completed, opening statements will begin. 9 News reporter Matt Jablow is going to monitor the court hearing for us today. You can find any and all updates on air and online at 9news.com.
The Louisville City Council has approved a new ordinance to ease restrictions on the Marshall Fire survivors as they rebuild their homes. It allows them to option out or into the city's new green building codes. Those codes were approved by the City Council 3 months before the fire. Survivors have said it would cost them more money to follow that rule, especially those who are underinsured. Now all homeowners need to do is check that they are facing financial hardships due to the Marshall fire. The deadline to submit the building permit with the option is December 31st, 2024.
Ukraine's president is accusing Russia of committing the worst war crimes since World War II. President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed the United Nations Security Council on Tuesday, sharing the destruction and death he saw in the town of Bucha this week.
Some of them were shot on the streets, others were thrown into the wells, so they died there in suffering. They were killed in their apartments, houses, blowing up grenades. The civilians were crushed by tanks while sitting in their cars in the middle of the road, just for their pleasure.
Zelensky asked the Security Council if an entity that fails to take action to stop a war serves any purpose. Russia continues to deny the allegations of brutality in Ukraine. Now the U.S. will block Russia from making debt payments using money that's held in American banks. The European Union is closer to cutting off imports of Russian coal and blocking Russian ships from EU ports. And new this morning, Ohio lawmakers are proposing a measure similar to the one in Florida, controversial law restricting how schools talk about sexual orientation and gender identity. Critics called it the Don't Say Gay bill. Two Ohio Republicans say, quote, this legislation promotes free and fair discussion and that parents should have a say in what is taught to their children in schools. But the president of the Ohio Education Association says the bill raises several concerns, including the singling out of children who are LGBTQ or have LGBTQ parents. If the bill becomes law, the Ohio Board of Education will come up with a way for parents to file complaints about educators they believe have violated it. In such cases, the teacher would get a hearing and could possibly get their teaching license revoked. There could also be funding penalties. Meanwhile, New York City is offering any Floridian upset with the so-called Don't Say Gay bill an opportunity to move. Right now, there's a new digital billboard campaign in 5 Florida markets denouncing the law and inviting Floridians to move to New York.